Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Career Evangelist podcast. I'm so excited about today's show because we have a guest with us. We have Jeff Perry. Jeff is a leadership and career expert for engineers and technology professionals. So you guys, if you have all this technical background and you are looking for growth, you are going to want to listen to the end of this show. Without keeping you guys waiting any further, I'll bring in our guest, Jeff. Hey, Jeff, what's going on?
Hey, so good to be with you and glad to be on the show. So excited for this conversation. Let's jump into it.
Okay, that's good. You are the intentional engineer guy, and I love that name because I truly believe that without being intentional, it is extremely challenging to achieve anything. But before we go into the discussion or the origin of that intentional engineering, I want to my listeners to know you. So, would you mind introducing yourself to us?
Yeah, so real quick background in mechanical and software engineering and manufacturing and engineering leadership. But I like to say I made the transition from developing products and services as an engineer, an engineering leader, to developing people. And now that's the work that I really get to do, serving as a coach and trainer and facilitator, uh, largely in the engineering and technology sectors, on subjects of career and leadership and team and culture development. And so that can span and look in a lot of different ways, from individual work that I do sometimes, and looking at doing some in-person retreats this year for people who are interested, as well as doing work on the corporate side, with some speaking and workshop facilitation to help improve um, team dynamics and innovation and creativity and productivity in the workplace, using some of these principles of living with more intention and developing our mindsets and who we are and who we're trying to become individually and collectively. So it's work that I love doing. It's an honor to be able to kind of have that front row seat to seeing people make decisions to change their life and career. And I really get to have a lot of fun doing that work with people.
No, that's good. I know you are big in intention, in mindset, and I want to hear from you. How has your own career journey shaped your perspective on intentional engineering and career development?
Yeah, so obviously the experiences that we have influence how we see life and the world and things. And by the way, if people are interested in checking out the book and more information on that, then go to theintentionalengineer.com. Um, but just a couple experiences, like I had coming out of school, had a job lined up, and then I had someone else sort of reach out to me for a career, kind of my next step. And so things were just sort of like lined up, and I was just kind of opportunistic early on in my career, and that was fine, and I had some good experiences with that. But while I was in one of my roles, I had opportunities to um, do not just my engineering leadership work, but also lead workshops and work on coaching and training for the organization based on some mindset principles. And when doing that, I recognized something in me that I wasn't aware of previously, where I really loved that work, that really human side of work, where what I was doing was really working on the human, not just the technology that I was working on. And it was just really fulfilling. And so that was an eye opener for me. And so I started saying, okay, this is what I really love to do. How can I do more of this? And there eventually was a time where there were some organizational shifts and some things that were going on that I recognized weren't going to be a fabulous fit for me. And so I said, hey, how can I do more of this? And that's when I made the jump to start my own practice and do the work that I'm doing now, in this leadership and career development space, but also still utilizing that engineering background that I have in the engineering and tech sector. And so that was that shift from kind of being opportunistic and just letting things come my way to saying, hey, I recognize the type of work I want to do and the things I want to be and who I want to become. How can I go do that? And then decided to then go make the leap and start that. And it's been a journey since then. But it's been a very rewarding one that I've grown a lot from.
And I think that shift, I think it is important for every one of us. And I think most people, at least the intentional ones, there'll be a time in their life when they'll make such shift. And thank you very much for sharing that. Uh, so, thinking about intentional engineers, I'm wondering, why not intentional accountant, intentional lawyers, or
Yeah.
intentional doctors? Why engineers? I know you, your background is engineering. Maybe that's why, but can you touch on that for us?
Yeah, great question. Obviously, it's just kind of the niche of people that I primarily work with in my work. So I wanted to write it to them. And there are some things in the book that I write primarily to engineers and that group of people. But I've had multiple people now who have read the book who are not engineers, in fact, who are accountants and other things. And they said, hey, you could have written this book as creating an intentional life
That's right.
for anyone. And people, they don't have to be engineers to read this book to get a lot of value out of that. And so that's because while I was writing to this particular group of people in mind, uh, principles are universal across the human experience.
That's
And
right.
so while you may need to translate a little bit, like this isn't really the type of work and decisions that I'm making, and maybe the stories that I'm sharing may not relate directly to you and the type of industry that you're in, but the types of problems and the feelings that people are having and the ways to make some of those shifts, the principles absolutely still apply. And so I hope any of the listeners who, even if you wouldn't brand yourself as an engineer technology professional, there might still be some things that certainly we can talk about in this episode and maybe in the book that you would absolutely benefit from.
So in the beginning, you said at the start of your career, it was you had all this opportunity lined up for you, just like being opportunistic, right?
Right.
And I'm thinking, why is it that more people are not intentional about what they really want in life? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there's probably a few things there. I mean, just from my own experience, right? Like it just seemed like there was kind of this pathway that was sort of laid out, like, hey, this is where you get, maybe there's a few different options to go through school, get as good a grade as you can, get into school. I decided pretty early on, because I had some natural tendencies towards math and science, that I wanted to be an engineer. I was like in ninth grade when I decided to be a mechanical engineer. I never shifted that. And so it's sort of like, okay, this is what I need to do to get into engineering school and the classes I need to take. And then, pretty employable on the other side. And then they're like, yeah, try and have internships. So I looked for some of those, and maybe some undergraduate research. I got an undergraduate research, and then someone um, and then through that undergraduate research program that I was a part of, that created an opportunity for a new job. I was like, okay, well, there's another opportunity. And so I was being intentional in terms of, hey, I want to be doing things that are going to give me opportunities in the future, but I didn't know exactly where I was headed and what I wanted to do. So there was some opportunistic, and that's totally fine, right? So,
Yeah.
we need to seize the opportunities that are given to us if they're right for us. But I still, but also early on in our lives, we're sort of led by the advice of others,
Yeah.
and we're also just trying to get exposure to a degree, right? And to understand who we are and the things we really care about. But I would like, as early on as possible for people to be able to identify those types of things that they really care about. And it doesn't necessarily need to be, this is the specific career or industry I'm going to work in for the rest of my life and career. You don't need to be so specific about that, but what's the type of person that you want to become? What are the skills that you have now that you want to continue to develop, and find ways to do that? What's the kind of person you want to be in your community? And other aspects that are not just, this is the specific career role or company I want to work for, which it's good to do that. But hey, life and careers and the market like changing. And so if I were to say, this is what I want to do in 10 years, well, for a lot of people, some of the things that may be available to do in 10 years don't even exist today. So you can't even know, right? So, uh, we're not saying that we're going to have everything mapped out, but, kind of have this guiding light or intention of who we're trying to become, and then make decisions from that in more deliberate ways.
Okay, so as far as your book is concerned, you just explained that even though you said intentional engineers, anyone could pick up the book and read it. And I know in your book you have maybe 4 critical skills that could support intentional living. I want to hear from you. What are those skills? If you don't mind, if you can just tell us maybe 1 or 2 of those.
Yeah. So it's a little bit different in uh, like all the other chapters 1 through 7. I'm more talking about principles. Let's apply this, and then I have a section at the end that's called take intentional action. Now, but chapter 8, I do it a little bit differently, trying to build skills that support these intentions. Say, hey, this is who you're trying to become, and so talk about communication, like how we communicate with others in terms of listening, being confident in our communication, things like this. Being the principle of accountability and building that skill. There's not just holding others accountable, but finding ways to take ownership and hold yourself accountable, and doing that in big ways. Like the powers of like accountability contracts, and also creating a culture and a team or organization of accountability in a strong way. Um, the skill of giving and receiving feedback, that's so important as we try and continue to develop who we are and develop relationships with each other. And that's critical in the workplace. That's critical in our personal relationships, right? Like we don't
Absolutely.
just want to avoid those conversations, and we need to be able to receive them when others have feedback for us, and seek that out even as we continue to try and improve. And then the final one is just strengthening relationships and the importance there, because research suggests that of all factors in terms of living a life that people are happy with and satisfied with, um, way up at the top, far and away versus any other factor, is the quality of your relationships. Okay.
Yeah.
And then that's all your different relationships in life. Certainly, family, close friends would be high on that list. But the types of relationships you have in your workplace. And so it's interesting to think about, hey, when you get to the end of your life, what are those relationships that you've really developed over time? How have you cultivated those? How have you strengthened them? And have you taken care of them in important ways? And if you want to be happy and live a fulfilling life, well, developing strong relationships is a critical piece to that. So, yeah, went a little more high level with those skills at the end of the book, to say, hey, this is what some of this is all about.
No, those are very, very important skills. I must agree with you on that. So thank you for sharing that. So this is the Career Evangelist podcast. One of the reasons why I do this is to help job seekers out there looking for new opportunities, or people that want to just grow in their career. So, and I know you help people with their career. You build people, right? So, I want to ask you, Jeff, if you can share some tips that can help job seekers to prepare for interviews so that they can have like a stress-free or reduce their anxiety when preparing for interview.
Yeah, so this is great, and this is aligned with some of the other work I do in my career development work. I actually have a whole program called the Engineering Career Accelerator to help people move through intentional career upgrades and transitions, and find new career opportunities. And so obviously interviewing is a critical piece of this. But I think that too often people jump right to what do I need to do in like the resume or the interview before addressing some foundational things. And one of the things that I'll talk about specifically with regards to interviews is really identifying your personal brand, and which I would kind of define that as this intersection of who you are and the skills and traits and experiences and the value that you bring to the table and what others know about you. And that intersection, kind of in a Venn diagram, is your personal brand. So you need to identify what those things are and learn how to communicate that in a way that others can understand and find as relevant. And that starts with, understanding those things. Then you can certainly put that into how you communicate in your resume and LinkedIn, and networking conversations certainly flows through to an interview experience. And so at the high level, think about, okay, what are they trying to accomplish with this role that they're hiring for, right? So you can look at the job description. What are the traits and the skills that they're looking for, right? But also maybe going one level deeper, I'd like to help you think about, hey, if they're hiring for this job, what's the problem they need to solve, right? Because if they're hiring, there's something that they need someone to do. So if you can kind of get to that level and understand, hey, how can I help them see that I can help them solve their problem? And then communicate through the personal brand and the value that you can bring, you can prepare stories that you can tell, and we can talk about the STAR format and all that stuff. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of that, but that helps them see how you've solved similar problems in the past, and how maybe if you maybe there's a skill development ramp up, but maybe how you have built skills that you don't have yet in the past, or you don't check every single box that they're looking for right now, and that's fine. But you need to communicate how you can be that person that they're looking for. And you're not doing this in a way that says, I need this job. I deserve this job because I'm amazing. But you're trying to say, they have something they're trying to accomplish. How can I help them achieve their goals? And if you take that approach, they're going to receive that in a much more positive way. And you're going to do that confidently, and also reduces some of that anxiety and sort of thinking, I feel weird about selling myself, and I don't like bragging about myself. Well, you're doing something to help someone else as you share these things. And so it reduces some of that anxiety as well.
That's good. It's all about showing our value to the potential employer. And that's an excellent way to land the job. So as we are wrapping up, Jeff, I always like to motivate my listeners, and I know you also do some talk outside there. So there are people, maybe they are unintentional about what they want today, whether it's their career or their life in general. I want you maybe in a minute to share a word with them to motivate them to start getting intentional.
Yeah, great. So if I were you, I'd just take a break. And if you're listening to this, then see if you have a little space to sit down, take out a piece of paper or journal or your phone or computer, whatever you want to record some things on, and start journaling and writing about some of your intentions. I'll give you just a few questions, guiding questions that might be helpful. This is in the introduction to my book. What do you want to be when you grow up? What impact do you want to leave on the world? What do you want others to remember you for? What characteristics or skills do you want to grow and improve? What kind of person do you want to become? And what is the next right action you can take? So the whole point here is, if you can reflect for just a minute, if you get stuck on it, like, it's fine. Like, just start writing. Don't feel like this has to be perfect, but just write something and let some of those ideas flow. Take 5 or 10 minutes. And as you identify what's that next right action you can take, then go take that action. Because I don't want to prescribe that for you. I want you and your intentions to drive what the next right action is for you to take in your life and your career. And I hope that you do that with more intention. You're going to take charge of your life instead of just letting life happen to you.
So good. Thank you very much for sharing that, Jeff. So finally, where can my audience, where can they find you if they want to connect with you? I know you have a program to help engineers. I have a lot of engineers in my connection. Maybe they will listen to this and they may want to connect with you and learn more from you.
Yeah, great. So three places. Easiest place to communicate with me probably is LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. I think that's where you and I connected. So that's
Yeah.
a great place. And go find me on Jeff Perry. I already mentioned about the book, theintentionalengineer.com. Go find information on the book, and there's a free corresponding digital workbook you can get if you get a copy of the book. Book can be found on Amazon. And then my main website is jeff-perry.com. You can find more information on me there. There's a blog, and also I host a podcast and another podcast that I'm on. You can find info there. But yeah, connect with me any of those places, and I will respond to you as a human and get back to you.
Hey, Jeff, thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been a great conversation. I enjoy every bit of it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right.